Hello, it's Mr. Brown. This podcast today is mainly for the CNT120 and CNT125 students. We're going to go through changing the network settings for a Linux machine. And what I'm using today is our VM that we have installed on your desktop. So I'm going to quick go through kind of navigating around, and then in here, how do I get to my network settings, make changes to those, and then verify. So if we take a quick look around, up on our top bar here, here's applications. This gives us access to, kind of like the start button on Windows, if you will, where I see accessories, graphics, different programs I have to use in my system. That's the first piece. Accessories, terminal, and text editor come in handy as I work with my Linux machine. Places is kind of like going to my computer, that kind of thing. If I come in here and go to computer, this actually brings up my different drives in here. Floppy drive, CDW, or CD rewrite, DVD drive, and my file system is kind of like going to my C drive. This actually has in all the folders for the operating system. This looks a little funny until you get used to it, but these are, if I open up my Windows machine, the program folder and settings and documents and that sort of thing. That's what these are. Home folder is kind of like where you have your documents stored, but being that this is a Linux box and it's more like a server, this is also where user account folders are saved. Here's the student account on this machine. So there's kind of how I navigate around a little bit. In here also, let me go over to system. Preferences is kind of general stuff. This would be kind of like my control panel, getting around doing some basic setting changes to my computer. And then admin is where I get to some of the more advanced changes like my network setting and firewall and those sorts of things. All right, so there's a quick kind of look around. We want to go in and change our network settings, so we're going to go to System, Admin. From here, we're going to scroll down until we get to the network option. We'll pull that open, and we'll get a window that shows the NIC in our computer. Okay, and we see an Ethernet.back and an Ethernet 0. We always want to edit that one. So we'll double click on that guy, and this will bring up a window that's kind of similar to what we're used to seeing on Windows, where this is the name of our NIC. Down here it says, hey, I'm automatically obtaining IP address via DHCP. So right now it's set up for DHCP. Well, let's put a static on this guy. We'll come in here and put a 192.168, 10.25 or whatever it is. Put in our subnet mask. And for this one, just for today, we're not going to put a default gateway in, but just a reminder, default gateway is the address of probably the router you're connected to, the path out to the internet, so to speak. So we're going to say OK to that. And at this point in time, we can also come in here and do a save. We'll save those setting changes. Yep. It says, hey, I am not going to apply this yet until you purposely tell me to stop using the old settings and use these new settings you put in. So I have two options here. I can go the GUI route and say, let's deactivate our NIC. In other words, shut our NIC off. Right now it's inactive, and turn it back on. That's one way we can apply this setting change, and right now it should be using our new change. There's another way I'll show you in a minute where we can use command line to do it. What I like to do now, I'm going to close that. I always like to open up my command line or terminal. Again, if I go to applications, accessories, I can get to terminal as well. But we do have a shortcut on the desktop called terminal. I'll open that up, and then I'm going to verify that my setting change occurred with the ifconfig command. And when I do that, I should see under my Ethernet 0 right here that we are indeed using 192.168 10.25. So my setting change has applied. So there I changed my IP address, and I've gone out and verified, and then I could ping a neighbor or a friend or whatever. Well, let me go back and change it back to dynamic, and when I do, I'll show you the other way to apply that change. So I'm going to close out my terminal. I'm going to go back to System, Admin, Network. In here, I'm going to go in and edit again my Ethernet 0. Double click on that one. I'll come down where it says, and I click the option for automatically obtain IP address with DHCP. And I will select the option for OK. And again, it has not applied it. I'll save it. I'll come up here and save it. But I'm going to close this window out here, this network configuration window. I'm going to open up my terminal prompt again because I would verify. Let me just show you something. If I do an ifconfig right now, you'll see it's still using the 192.168 address that I previously assigned. It has not applied this yet. So the other way I can do that, instead of using the GUI, deactivate, activate, I could do a service network restart on this, where it literally shuts that network service off, turns it back on, and applies my setting change. And if I do an IF config right now, I should see that I'm picking up a 172 from the college. So there's the other way to apply that setting change. Sometimes a little more handy than using the GUI. So there, real quickly, is kind of getting in, navigating around your Linux box, and making some network setting changes, which is something we're going to do frequently in labs. So I figured this was handy for you folks to see.